G'day folks, Corey Hind. I hope you're having a good day. Hopefully you're ready for some important learning for your business around SEO. Now, SEO, search engine optimization, ranking higher on Google. We all want to do it because we know that it helps our business. Now, it's not some dark art. Really, SEO it's a collection of lots of little things done with some thinking behind them to really tell Google who we are and what we do. So that's what SEO really is. Now, the very beginning of an SEO campaign, if you're doing it for yourself or if you're like me, you do it for other people, the most important thing is what are we trying to win on Google for? Okay, we want to know that we're looking for the right phrases to win. So we need to do some thinking about that. Some SEO consultants will call that keyword research, which it is. I like to use the term bullseye phrase because I've found in my experience that having one most important phrase and then some other related phrases is a very, very useful way to do things because it seems to get the best results fastest. Okay, so the mission for this video is to establish one bullseye phrase for your business. Okay, you might already know it, but you might not. Regardless, this is a good thinking process to go through because essentially Google is one big giant scoreboard. Okay, it's you versus your opposition, and we want to do lots of things better than the opposition, so we rank higher. You might have easy opponents to beat, but you might have hard opponents to beat. So it's always worthwhile starting on the right foot by knowing what your bullseye phrase is. Okay, sometimes just knowing your bullseye phrase and really understanding that that's the right phrase for your business, getting the right people to your business, and just knowing that and starting to use that in the relevant places can be all you need to do to rank on page 1 of Google, which could transform your business. Okay, now pay close attention to this phrase because it's really, really important. Okay, the bullseye phrase is the most desirable phrase to win on Google that results in good leads to your business, not bad leads. We don't want to be running a gym and find piano customers. We want to find people who want to go to the gym. We want to find the right people for your business that turn into good paying, referring customers. Okay, so that's what a bullseye phrase is. It's one phrase that stands out above all the others as the most important phrase to win on Google. All right. Now, there are a couple of considerations to take into your thinking as you start to work through this. Thing number one is traffic. Okay, is there search traffic for that phrase? So you might be an insurance broker in Auckland. Highly likely there's lots of traffic for that. But if you're an insurance broker in a particular street in Auckland, well, then there might be no traffic for that. Okay, so you've got to think about the traffic and the number of people searching for that phrase, and then competition. Is it something that's too broad and way too much competition, or is it way too niche and too small, or is it just right? Okay, now my position on the bullseye phrase is that this is the most important element of the entire SEO journey. If you get this right, life can get much easier. If you get this wrong, you could do lots of work on your website and it might not help your business at all because you're attracting the wrong people to your business who are not relevant people at all. Okay. Now this image here is from an SEO tool that I use called Mangools. Okay, there's lots of SEO tools. We all use different ones. A few of my guys that I know use the same thing as me because it's pretty good. Now this is an image from a tracking that we're doing on Hooli, which is my wife's event directory business that she runs. So we track keywords. So these are the keywords we're tracking. There's actually a few more. And we've identified with our research in the beginning that event planning was our bullseye phrase. Okay, because if we look over here, this tells me the search volume for those phrases. So you'll see that party planning, this is a relative number. So event planning gets more than double the traffic of party planning. Okay, and then event planner gets almost as much as event planning. So we target both of those in the content and some of the pages and titles and tags for that website. And this is the change. So we've been on this project for about 8 months now, and it's going really nicely. It's on the page 1 of Google, which is great. So we know that the competition wasn't super hard, because if the competition was amazingly hard, that could take a couple of years to rank really well. In this case, it's not taken so long. So the competition wasn't brutally hard to beat, or isn't. And we know that there's reasonably good volume of search because we've done some other keyword research. So we need to know that the bullseye phrase you're searching for actually has search traffic. Okay, and we can work through that offline if you want to have a conversation about that. Like any of my videos, guys, if you want to clarify something, just reach out, track me down. Okay, but please consider that when you're doing your bullseye phrase research, it does have to be something that is attracting the right people. There needs to be search traffic for that phrase, and the competition, we don't want the competition to be too broad. Okay, so for example, mortgage broker New Zealand, pretty broad. Mortgage broker Auckland, a bit more niche. Mortgage broker North Shore, probably about right for a mortgage broker on the North Shore of Auckland. Probably loads of business in that area. So if they targeted mortgage broker North Shore, probably an appropriate bullseye phrase for that person. Whereas mortgage broker New Zealand, and I know this because I have a client in this niche, is a very hard one because there's a lot of traffic, but a lot of competition because the lead value is very high. Okay, but we want to get this right. Okay, so it's a very important thing. Now, if you're not sure what it is, I normally start with a checklist. Okay, a bit of a short list, I should say. I'll get a piece of paper or a Google Doc, and I'll just start to map out some words. I might ask up here, I might start with this process here. I might ask some people, friends, customers, potential leads, etc. What did you Google when you're looking for this business? Or what would you Google if you're looking for my business now? Ask some good customers, the customers that are high value and refer lots of people. Ask them, what did you Google when you found my business? And just note that down. You might jump onto Google itself and Google something related to your business, and then check out some other phrases that Google suggests, okay? Because they'll do that, and they'll tell you clearly what people are actually searching for. So they'll have a little piece in the middle of the page, which is called People Also Ask, so you can note these down. And at the bottom of the page for normal Google search, they'll also have related searches. So just make some notes of those. And you can click on those and it'll give you more information and start to build a bit of a web of words. But we want to identify one that stands out as the most important one. The next thing I'll do is I'll have a chat to the business owner. If this is you, have a conversation with yourself. Just use your intuition. You're selling Audi cars in Tauranga. It's probably Audi Tauranga. You're doing life insurance in Hamilton. It's probably Life Insurance Hamilton. Okay, it's not going to be who is the best life insurance broker in Hamilton. It'll be Life Insurance Hamilton. That's probably what people will search when they jump onto Google. Okay, oftentimes the bullseye phrase is more basic than you think. All right. The next thing, and this is really important because remember, Google is a competition. Okay, it's you versus your opposition. And we're trying to beat your opposition. So I always do this. I look at my competition. I'll find them on Google and I'll see what they're using in the URLs up the top. So you see that this red arrow points at URL. This is a search I did this morning for personal trainers in Tauranga. So personal training comes up in that URL. So Google looks at that piece of data, because remember, Google is essentially looking at loads of data to decide what's the best result here. Okay, some of those data points are, the URL, the meta title, the meta description, amongst lots of things. There's about a couple of hundred from what we can tell so far. Google never tells us exactly what that algorithm is like, by the way. Obviously, they can't do that because people game the system. But if we go back to personal trainer Tauranga, personal training is in that URL. But look down here at the blue line. That's the meta title. Okay, that's really, really important. Google tells us that by having it big and blue. Okay, so I'll look at my competition and I'll look at what they've got in their meta title and go, okay, good to know, good to know, good to know. And then also in the meta description, which is equally important because it's right there on the search engine result page. Okay, there it is. So I'll look at that as well. So that's just a bit of background research on how you can research your competitors and try and figure out what they're using for their bullseye phrase and just make some notes of that. The next thing I'll do is I'll check out a thing called SERP Robot. Now, this is a free tool that anyone can use. So you go to serprobot.com and the URL is actually there. You'll put in your URL and then some key phrases, and it'll rank you for New Zealand to tell you where you're currently ranking. And that's just a good piece of information to have because we want to know that we're improving over time. Okay, so get that done as well. Once you've got a bit of an idea, okay, I do this by hand. It just feels good, and I can do it and kind of mind map it and draw lines and squiggles and things and try and link things together. So I'll come up with a bullseye phrase chart. Now, for the purposes of this video, I think I will use this top one because it's probably the easiest one to use. So I'll literally put a box in the middle, and that'll be my bullseye phrase. Okay, there it is. Then I've got these 3 spots here, which will be related phrases. Now, it doesn't have to be 3. I suggest 3 and then 3 topics that feed into those phrases, because it seems to be achievable for most small, medium-sized businesses to do that level of content creation, page creation, focal point work. Big businesses with entire marketing teams will have a lot more than that. But for the purposes of most people that I work with, this works really well. So have your bullseye phrase up the top. That's the one thing you're going to work on. The next thing is to have 3 related phrases. Okay, so if you were doing, for example, insurance, you might then have life insurance, trauma or income protection, and maybe business insurance. Okay, and all those are related. So that's why that line comes up to the bullseye phrase. Those related phrases link to that. Okay, and then below that is your 3rd level, and this really is your content or topics. So you might have, let's say you had insurance, life insurance, and then down here you can have topics related to that. Okay, so updates on life insurance. Do I need life insurance? Maybe some stories of life insurance, and just start to create content that links up to that related phrase, which then links to the bullseye phrase. And Google loves this because it starts to paint a picture of your website that all this insurance stuff down here, for example, is related to these main phrases you want to win, which is related to your main bullseye phrase. Okay, the other way I would do that is just a big mind map like that, bullseye phrase in the middle. When I do it this way, you might have a 4th one over here, or maybe just the 2. Maybe you've got a lot more content that links into there. So that really is the game, guys. You need to figure out what is that bullseye phrase, what are some related phrases, and then we're going to use the bullseye phrase for the next steps as we look at your website and where that bullseye phrase should go. Then we're going to use the related phrases and topics to build content later on. Okay, essentially that's a massive part of SEO. Okay, apart from the technical stuff, so when you first take on a website job as an SEO consultant, you'll do a whole bunch of audits and checks on the website to make sure it's technically built well. It's kind of like a house is built to code or not. Once that's out of the way, then you've really got the game of on-page and off-page. So off-page is people linking back to your site. So we work hard to get people linking back to our website, which could be good content, talking to people, building relationships. But the on-page stuff, which is what does Google look at on your page, begins with the bullseye phrase. Okay, so we've got to get this right. If you're not sure about your bullseye phrase, please track me down and we'll have a conversation, because I'm very passionate about people getting this right so that all the following work they do is helpful, not wasteful. Okay, probably the last thing I want to just mention whilst I think of it on the fly, guys, is that Google is kind of like every single thing that you do on your website and how it's built, etc. In terms of the Google scoreboard, okay, where do we rank on this Google scoreboard? Every single thing is either a plus or a neutral or a minus. Okay, positive, nothing, or negative. Okay, if you had a bullseye phrase here that was a particular thing, and then the related phrases weren't related phrases at all, that's not a plus or a 0, that's a minus point. Okay, so Google will look at that and go, that's weird, that's confusing, I don't like that, and they'll actually downgrade you. Okay, so that happens all the time. So one of the steps in this course we're doing will be to look at the site to make sure there's nothing there that's confusing to Google. Google likes to be sure, and they're trying to give people the best possible search result, and so they look at all the things on the website to make sure that it makes sense, it's ordered, it's structured, and that really starts with right back up at the start, guys, which is that bullseye phrase being the most desirable phrase to win on Google that results in good leads for your business. All right, that's the end of this video. As with anything I do, guys, any questions, pop them below, reach out, find out how to get in touch with me, because I want you to get it right. Okay, cheers. Bye for now.